Welcome to our spoiler discussion of Dr. Sleep, and here we're going to be discussing some more things that we didn't talk about in our regular review. And for those of you who still haven't seen the film yet, you're welcome to check out our non-spoiler review that we did. So now this movie, as we discussed in our last one and in our regular non-spoiler review, is basically a sequel to The Shining, unofficial. Well, it's the official sequel to The Shining.
Yeah.
But it's also a
Kubrick and book.
Both the Kubrick version and the book itself, based on the Dr. Sleep book. And literally, this movie actually already starts out with a fucking great start, where it literally opens in 1980.
Yeah,
that was
on the same morning.
The same morning.
Yeah,
like
the morning after.
Next day, basically.
Yeah, the next day. Yeah.
And already from the opening scene, it plays the fucking theme song.
Yeah,
goes,
as the credits roll,
yeah,
and then it's 1980. In this part, it starts to feel like I am watching Kubrick, because it gets that whole look, the camera
well, and they got
angles and stuff.
Where it's got the overview shot where it shows like the trees and stuff and all that. And so you got it to where we pretty much get an opening scene that sets the mood, where you get like this little girl.
It starts out at a campground setting, and basically it is kind of like in the kind of vicinity area of Colorado, I guess.
No, it was in a different area. I think it was in Iowa or somewhere else. That it wasn't in Colorado.
Whatever it was, like it was a big like a river, or like somewhere. A lake or something. But anyways, pretty much campground, and this little girl is walking around. She stumbles upon Rebecca Ferguson's character, who is basically the villain in this film, who's known as a
Rose the Hat.
Rose the Hat, but
their gang is called the what's it called, the
Tuas or something.
The True Knot.
Yeah, that's what they're called, the True Knots. And basically she pulls a Pennywise here with the little girl, where she's showing her little tricks, like showing her how she could do flowers out of her hat and all that stuff. And then next thing you know, she's just, kind of calming her in the situation. They're talking to a stranger, and the little girl starts noticing that these figures of men and women just standing there all stiff, which I do find it unsettling.
It is. It's very such in that really
it's like a Children of Cornish type thing. It's like, whoa.
And what's also interesting about the scene too, right? It's something very out of if you remember the original Frankenstein from 1931. Remember the scene where the monster's playing with the little girl? It's also a tribute to that too, where the monster meets the victim. Yeah. And I like that, because it really sets the mood, where the girl is just like, it's like, can you do magic? He's like, yeah. Look at these flowers.
It's like a Pennywise type thing.
Which I actually thought, for the game, I was like, okay, she's really going on that level already.
Yeah, so these cold people or figures are standing around, surrounding her, and that's when the little girl knows she's, like, in trouble. And that's when Rebecca Ferguson grabs her arm, and she knows that she's in a lot of shit, and then next thing you know, they eat her.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, off from the start.
Yeah.
And then after that, pretty much she goes missing, and now we go back to the story where we see Danny's little.
It actually opens with the first of the Shining of Kubrick's version, where they redid the scenes of where he's going the little tricycle and stuff, and they got a different actor playing Danny this time, but he finds that room where it says 237, which granted, in the book of The Shining, it was actually 217, but they changed it to 237, but yada yada. And he ends up going besides that room, and like already from the get-go, you can tell that Flanagan is like really honoring Kubrick's like direction with the tracking shots. Yeah,
so this is all happening at the same time, and you get to see, like you said, riding around. It looks exactly like the Overlook Hotel. I mean, it is like shot. I mean, the fucking floors, everything looks so spot the fuck on. And then we finally get to see the woman who plays Shelley Duvall's character as the mom in
Wendy.
This, Wendy, which, oh my god, this actress, I thought I was seeing deja vu for a second, because this girl did her fucking homework.
Oh yeah, dude.
She sounds just like fucking Wendy from that one.
There's a part where
Holy shit.
Yeah, and like her mannerisms and the way that she like is kind of yelling for Danny and stuff.
Danny.
I was like, holy shit, was that Shelley Duvall?
Yeah, like I thought they were going. Now, give or take, when we do mention these characters from Shining, they're new people playing them. They didn't do the face recognition, which was an issue I kind of wish they would have done.
Yeah.
But anyways, they did pick some lookalikes.
Yeah.
Like the Danny kid
he's got different hair
color, but and a little bit on the freckles in the face, but other than that, he sounds like him. He looks like him in the clothes. Anyways, you got her talking, to Danny about the events.
And get this, while this is also going on, one thing that I actually thought was pretty surprising was they got a guy that pretty, in a way, kind of looked like Scatman Crothers playing Dick from The Shining.
Yeah.
And because, as you know, and this is a controversial topic, in the movie, Dick Halloran got killed by Jack Torrance, which, from the book, he wasn't killed. Yeah. So they changed that in the movie version. So in this one, they acknowledge he's dead. And he's basically, Danny is seeing a ghost of him. Yeah. Which I know that's a little tricky to do when you're having to follow the book, but it's following the Kubrick version, so they had to do that. They had to show him as a ghost. And when they show him as a ghost, he's telling him how that you're basically going to still have this ability to shine and stuff and everything. And, and then basically...
he's sitting there talking to a little boy, and then you go into Wendy, and Wendy goes and looks for him and finds Danny. They go back home, and now they're living in Florida, which after they got away from the hotel and their father, played by Jack Torrance, they got moved down in Florida, and they've been living there, and it's been about, I guess, pretty much a year later from it now at this point, and she's talking to him, and all that stuff, about, kind of like the events and stuff that are, the dad did. And that's when the little boy sees that woman from the room in his bathroom, and Scatman Crothers type character. He
teaches him how to confront his demons.
Confront his demons, and you can put them in a box. He hands him a box, and he goes, use it to your mind, your advantage.
Which that comes a crucial plot point throughout. And I actually, at first I was kind of confused, like what that was. Like, what the hell is this box that he's giving him? Yeah. And then as it goes on, I was like, oh, okay. So he goes inside this bathroom where that woman is from The Shining, all decayed and basically it symbolizes that he traps him in his box.
Basically what they're saying is, after he went through all that shit in the Overlook Hotel, that all followed him throughout his life, and when he sees them, he's able to trap them and then close them out. Yeah. And that's about it. After that, then he goes into like 30 years later, where he's now in his 40s, and he's an alcoholic.
Yeah, and he's now pretty much doing what his dad used to do, where he's drinking a lot and stuff. Yeah. And this is where we get into that weird scene where it shows he takes that girl home, and I guess she got doing cocaine and stuff, and she's got this little boy there.
Little girl,
I think it's a little girl. And after this scene. Well,
no, that's jumping way ahead.
Well, okay, but basically, when
he goes and picks up, he's a drunk at bars, he's homeless, he meets girls, he fucks them. Yeah. He goes to this one girl's house, they do coke and drink and just get blacked out. Wakes up the next morning, decides he's gonna leave, and notices that his money's gone. Tries to steal her money, and Scatman's in the corner telling him.
Dick's in the corner.
Dick's in the corner telling him, hey, don't steal. That's not what we do. You're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
And basically looks at the little baby, sees that there's a little baby there that ain't, mom's all blacked out, picks the baby up, gives him some food, or her, well, I can't remember what sex it was, gave the food and walks out. And there's a plot point that does become very confusing with those two little characters later on in the film, which we'll go into later. But it's basically him being a drunk, for quite a while.
And then he ends up going into this area that I believe is in New Hampshire, where he ends up getting on this bus that he gets off of, and he comes across.
Yeah, this is where, basically his drinking is so severe, and he's homeless, don't have really anywhere to go. He pretty much just gets on buses and goes to different states.
Yeah.
Trying to find himself is what he's saying.
Yeah, and then he comes across this Cliff Curtis's character, who helps him out with basically finding a place to stay and stuff. And he's also a part of this AA, he goes to AA meetings and stuff that he organizes. And he basically says that, he's seen type of guys like him before, and he wants to try to help him out as best they can. Yeah. Because he's going through a similar problem that he did with, as far as drinking. And basically, this is where we also get introduced to the guy from Jail's Game, Bruce Greenwood. The guy who runs the AA meetings and stuff. And this is also where we get pretty much where our title character comes from, because when he meets him there, he tells him, because if you remember, Danny has the ability to pretty much, read minds and stuff. He's telekinesis. he has a telekinesis.
Yeah,
power.
they give him when he starts cleaning up after his AA meeting. He's clean cut, he's shaved, he's looking healthy.
That's before he actually gets the.
Well, he gets a job at working for this like a nursing home.
Yeah. And then he basically comes across this cat that basically leads around to like different patients' rooms and stuff. And it's basically a way of helping cope with the patients almost dying.
Well, the cat is actually there because the cat knows. Ends up coming to find out, and it's actually in the book from what I was told by people who read the book. This cat it knows when someone's going to die.
Okay,
and it goes in the room, sits on her lap, and that's where that guy told, oh, it's my time, and he tells Danny, he goes to, when he knows somebody's about to die within minutes, he goes inside their room, sits on their bed with them.
Yeah.
And that's where Danny was able to use his power for good and help them sleep.
Yeah, and that's where he becomes Dr. Sleep, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then after that, he ends up going to. That's when when he ends up going home, he starts to see like messages, like you see in the trailer, where it's saying hello and all that, and he's basically having someone talk to him from the inside, like and trying to communicate with him. Yeah. And then we leave from there to 11 years later, or 8 years later.
8 years later.
Where now he's basically sober after 8 years, and he's finally been able to recover from alcoholism.
Yeah, and he's clean cut and everything, and he's pretty much, he doesn't, he's got everything trapped, and he don't have no more nightmares or anything. And for 8 years, and he also does a thing where he has a coin you get when you do AA meetings, and basically he talks about his father, Jack Torrance, who was a raging alcoholic, and his dad got one, and he said sober for 5 months before the Overlook Hotel when they went up there and started drinking. He became, the movie, how it went.
Yeah.
His dad went nuts.
But that is something I at least respected, because it showed that Danny still had respect for his father. And that even though his father tried to kill him, he still appreciated that, he learned from his father with trying to recover.
He basically said, I graduated. This is from my father who didn't get to.
Which, as far as I know, because I've seen this kind of similar in the miniseries of The Shining, that was actually from the book of The Shining. Because if you remember from the miniseries they did in the 90s, there was that scene at the very end where it showed Danny pretty much an adult graduating, and he gives a speech about his dad, how he's pretty much sober and everything, and he's basically succeeding. So that right there, I think, was actually from the original book of The Shining.
Well, they do actually reference it in the Kubrick's version at the beginning where he meets the guy that's running the Overlook Hotel. And he talks to the guy, and he goes,
I'm sober.
He goes, I'm sober. I've been clean for 5 months.
Yeah.
He goes, I've not touched a drop.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And then pretty much after that, we then get introduced to the other character that becomes like Danny, Abra, who's this little girl that is basically able to have like similar telekinesis powers like he does, and she starts to see like visions of people that have similar abilities like she does, and as she sees the visions, there's people that are coming across getting approached by Rick Ferguson's gang and her people, and this is something I actually thought was pretty cool, was how they end up having a girl that pretty much join her gang, that girl, that blonde-haired girl that goes in that theater, and she ends up basically
she becomes like one of the Shine people that ends up, instead of them killing her, they recruit her.
Because she knows that she's powerful enough to pretty much join her, basically.
Yeah, this girl has a different type of Shine, where they all usually do, like her power is this little girl's power. It starts off where she's at a theater. It's kind of reminiscent of like a Marilyn Monroe type setting. Watching the movie and they're watching the blonde hair and all that. But anyways, she ends up bringing this pedophile who was gonna fuck, looking to fuck her, but she's underage. She ends up fucking with her. She knows that she's known as the snake bite queen. That's or something. Yeah. Because what she does is she gets pedophiles. She can say sleep or do this and do that, and you do it. Yeah. And she tells this guy to sleep, and then she starts like telling him like in hypnosis, like, I'm cutting you right now. You're not feeling the pain, so you don't wake up. So he doesn't wake up and feel the pain. And she draws a snake bite in his neck and saying, "You just got bit by a rattlesnake." Yeah. And, just fucking with them. And that's when they take her, and they were able to recruit her, and they pretty much kind of feed her somebody else.
They do. So, they feed her that little girl from the beginning.
From the beginning, yeah.
Because Rose the Hat, she ends up keeping all the souls, the body decays, whatever the stuff, the dust stuff, that the steam stuff that comes out of people's steam. Yeah, that comes out of people's.
It's basically,
their souls. She collects them in like these weird bottles and stuff, and then she basically she digests them to...
what they are pretty much leftovers.
Yeah, leftovers.
Put it in the fridge, so when they're hungry, they open one, they do the thing if they're can't find anybody to eat off of. They give her that, now she becomes them, and basically we go into this other story where, like you said, the little girl, the black girl, what's her name again?
Abra.
And Abra ends up, her powers, she's seeing visions of Rebecca Ferguson and the crew killing other kids by other parts. And I will tell you right now, I did not see this person in this movie because I didn't, he wasn't even listed on the casting or anything, but we get a scene with Jacob Tremblay where he's a baseball player, and Jacob Tremblay, who is really good at shot, he's really good at shining, knowing he's like a really good baseball player where he knows where all the pitches are and all that stuff. And they were able to discover they had this sixth sense of them, of where these people are coming from, where all the Shine people are. They show up at this baseball game. They end up trying to picking them up on the side of the road. That's whenever the little girl who can brainwash people and by saying words, she's like, "Come in the van with us."
Yeah, it's like basically, and it's basically the anti-version of the Jedi mind trick in Star Wars. You will come to us.
And Jacob Tremblay gets in, and I will tell you right now, his death is probably the most brutalest in the whole movie.
Yeah, I was shocked by this because basically they hold him down and stuff, and just the menacing fucking smile that Rebecca Ferguson gives. He's like, don't kill me. He's like, are you gonna kill me? He's like, yes, I am,
and it's gonna be so painful.
Yeah, and she just starts cutting him fucking down.
Well, she stabs him right down here. And it's saying that as much torture and fear they put into their victims, the more the shine, the steam will come out.
Yeah.
And she stabs him in the bottom and starts slicing them all the way up.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, for a little boy getting sliced that bad and all the blood coming out, I'm like, God damn, they're gutting this kid. And they suck it all out of him. And they get to the part where they're cutting his fucking throat and everything. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, I was like, good Lord. It's on level with It Chapter 2's brutality, you know?
It's also cool because we didn't mention this in the other review because it was really not needed, but there was also, it's cool that her sidekick, well, she has a whole group of them, but her main sidekick is dude from Fargo
season 2.
Yeah,
he played
he's the Indian dude. Yeah, he's the Indian dude. And then you also get the grandpa who played off of Gerald's game at the end, is that weird looking, lurch looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
But
I think that was the same dude, maybe, that played.
It is
the guy that played Lurch from the original movie.
Oh, I don't know if that's
from Addams Family.
Might be.
I don't know.
But I'm just saying he's the guy from Gerald's game.
He kind of looked like him. But anyway, that was just so fucking. It was unsettling because I was like, oh my God, I'm having anxiety already from it.
This is when the girl now knows that Rebecca Ferguson is looking and killing people that know how to shine, and she's scared, so she ends up getting in contact with Danny to meet him.
Yeah, and she basically, we find out that's who's basically writing the messages to him through the little chalkboard and stuff.
Yeah.
And we also get to see, as a good another nod to Shining, we get to see Red Rum scene on the fucking background where it shows spell out murder. Yeah. And then basically it leads into Danny ended up having to meet her in person at the park. And they end up, Danny ends up coming across of Abra about how he has the Shining and everything, and they pretty much have to team together to try to figure out what's going on. And then they end up going on their journey. They end up actually going to the gravesite where Jacob Tremblay's character was buried at.
What she does is she was telling her, she was saying, because obviously she's a little girl that can't drive all the way to Iowa with them. So she basically said, I need to touch the baseball glove. And basically, she has the power and his powers. She could be present there without being there.
And I'm not only going to bring this up because it's a very similar thing, and I know a lot of people don't want to compare this movie. If you remember Star Wars The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker had that ability where he can basically have his mind projected to somewhere else, which I actually think that's actually a cool fucking technique. And they do that with this movie where she can basically have her mind projected in somewhere else.
Yeah. So her being a little girl and not be able to go on the trip, she convinces him that people who have the Shining are all going to end up dying if she's not stopped. So she needs to find the glove to figure out who she is, what she looks like, where they're tracking next, and all that stuff. So basically, you get Danny Torrance going up to Clifford's character, who are now best friends, and he basically says, he goes, we need to go on a long drive. I got a big story to tell you. You're probably not going to believe it. Just please believe me.
Yeah.
He basically goes on the journey with him, and they go to Iowa where they have to dig up the boy's body. And I'll tell you right now, that's some fucking freaky shit seeing his dead body
I know, it's like,
decay
damn.
Stuff like that. I was like, damn. So they're able to, and while that's going on, the girl is with them in mind, so she's able to kind of touch it from her mind from that distance.
Yeah.
Where she lives, and they're able to know who they are and what these people are wanting.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then basically after that, they end up getting...
I think this is where the scene where Rebecca now feels her presence.
She does, where she can now pretty much... Because we get a whole, really haunting scene where it shows her mind, dive, in the fucking sky and stuff, and she's, looking around for and everything.
Because she feels her presence, because Rebecca feels like a presence of a girl that she's like... I've never felt power like this before. Yeah. So she goes in on her little shine way, because these people kind of have the same kind of powers the Shiners do.
And that's what that's not a good jump ahead, but that's what I love a lot with the way the movie goes, is that each of these characters have different ways of shining. And I love how they expand upon that from the Shining.
So Rebecca Ferguson's character is flying like Superman around the world.
Which I was like, okay, is Superman now?
I know, it was like, dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Well, anyways, it was actually a pretty cool shot scene, the way it was filmed and how she was flying and how the camera was just turning with her movement. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. But she was able to smell her way to the house where this little girl lived.
And what's cool about this scene that I do also appreciate is that when she goes in there looking for her and stuff, she discovers that basically... Abra is trying to get inside her head, and she keeps files on her and stuff.
Yeah, there was a scene previous to this, and that's how she discovered the little girl. Before she felt her presence, there's a scene where Abra or whatever, Abra was doing a scene where she wanted to try a different way of finding who this lady is. So she becomes in the mindset of Jacob Tremblay's character, I think it was. Yeah. Or she used his mind to see
stuff,
who they are. And basically, this is at the scene where Rebecca's at a grocery store shopping, and basically, this is where she projects
herself.
We get this cool scene where the whole fucking bedroom's twisting, and she's basically the window. It's like the house turned sideways. Yeah. And then Rebecca fills it and sees her through a glass, and was able to freaky shit where her hand comes right behind the girl Abby's head, and then she freaks out. She's like, "Get out of my head!" Yeah, and then it explodes, and our fucking villain gets injured big time.
Well, and then later on, she ends up getting inside her. Abra ends up getting inside Rose's head, where she basically is Rose is at her house trying to basically get to her and stuff, where she's flying around and gets to her. And then basically she gets a scene which I actually thought was actually pretty creative, because it shows the fear on her, where she's trying to basically
scared.
She's trying to get the files out and everything. Her gets her fucking hand brutally fucking bashed.
The files are supposed to represent in her mind. Yeah. So she's looking for what she's looking for and where she's at and all that crap. And that's when she tricked her, Rebecca's character, Abby's character tricked Rebecca's character into saying, I know you're in there. And then closed the thing and basically took all her fucking skin and off her fingers to the point that you only see bones and veins.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty fucking brutal ass shit. See the practicals
and
on it?
You see the villain actually fucking hurt and scared.
Which that's actually a good, that's a good, dynamic between our heroes and villains. I like that we get to show, weaknesses with actual villains like this.
Exactly.
And then we pretty much later on see that, she is trying to get her people to go after her and everything, and then basically Danny and Cliff Curtis's character have to basically form a trap in order to get them taken care of and stuff. Well, and also we forgot to bring this. they end up going to meet her actually at her house, and they get to her dad's kind of like reluctant on believing all this shit, and then basically she ends up showing what happened to Jacob Trindlay's character in a vision and shit. And she basically has to form a plan in order to lure her people to actually out in the field, wherever, to try to bait.
Bait the crew. And the dude from Fargo season 2, he's basically like the second command. Tells Rebecca to stay back. She's really injured and knows that girl now knows any step she makes, she knows she's coming. So they basically leave Rebecca behind, and he takes the rest of the crew. This is another thing we didn't mention earlier, but right before all this starts taking place, the older man dies.
Yeah. And it shows that he's basically he's starved so much to the point where he's died of old age and stuff, and they have to bury him. And as you can see, it's almost in a way like they're like vampires, where they have to feed off hunger. Only difference is vampires have to survive in nighttime
and blood,
and everything. But with these are basically like regular humans that have like a hunger fear, basically, which I actually like. I actually think it's very reminiscent of that.
So anyways, we get them now having to trap the whole crew, which they do, because they find the little girl sitting on a park, like a bench thing out in the woods, and basically Cliff and Danny Torrance end up having their fucking guns, hunting guns, and they're popping these motherfuckers off one by one.
And not to cut you off, but didn't that scene kind of remind you of Last Boy Scout with the fucking bear? Remember that scene where they're having that shit out in the woods, and they have a bear and everything that fools them, and then they're getting shot and shit? Didn't that kind of remind you of that? In that scene?
I don't know. It was a weird thing, because like the one that could trick minds, or by telling you just come in with us. The one they turned earlier in the movie, she ends up having this like needle that she's gonna stab her. When she stabs the neck, it really wasn't that. It was a stuffed animal.
Yeah.
And they start shooting them left and fucking right.
Brutally.
And it's kind of like, it reminds me like something out of a vampire thing, because they all like get hit and like they fucking evaporate.
Deteriorate, basically, yeah.
Evaporate and shit.
What's really more fucked up is that they get to the last person there, that girl, from that blonde-head chick.
Yeah, and they finally kill her.
They finally about to kill her, but while they're doing that, she turns the gun on fucking Cliff Curtis, and he kills himself.
You remember how we said that she tells her victims to do something, they have to do it? Right when she's about to decay completely, she looked at Clifford and said, "Put the gun to your head and pull the trigger." And he ends up doing it, and it kills him. And I'm like, damn. That was a kind of good, like, like not seeing that coming.
Yeah. But, and then after that, we
kind of remind me of that one movie, like a suicide. It reminded me of Village of the Damned, with their little eye things making the parents kill themselves.
It reminded me of that when Mark Hamill blew his fucking head off when the children are looking at him and shit. Yeah. And then you have, basically after that, we see that the last guy, the guy from Fargo Season 2, is there with the girl and actually ends up taking her, because he ends up going to her house, kills her dad and then basically takes her on her way to bring to Rose. And after that, we pretty much get probably one of my favorite scenes of the whole film. That's what's actually kind of really got me, was this part where basically she is in this van with him on the way to go see her and stuff. Basically, Danny is sharing the ability that Abra has, where he can basically get inside and take pretty much possession of the person, and he ends up basically taking the possession of
the Indian
her.
Dude stuck her with a high dose of that shit where she can't fight or can't shine really. It holds her to shine at bay. She can't really use her powers. But then Danny Torrance is able to use to help out in that situation by using, because he's not like that, so he uses by possessing her body with him talking through her, and you even see her eye color the same as Ewan McGregor's.
Which I thought was cool.
And you can hear him cussing like, I'm not hungover. I'm not fucking hungover this time. Through her voice, which was pretty fucking funny and stuff, just talking mad shit to this motherfucker. And basically he's like tricking him to, because he also keeps a gun to his side. He's about to shoot her earlier when she was talking, and he goes to reach for his gun. It's not there because Danny pulled it away earlier, and basically made the van veer off and hit a tree at full speed, killing him through the window, and he dies and evaporates.
And then pretty much after that, we get it to where after Danny ends up getting Abra at her house and everything, ends up taking her away. we now get to our third act where it finally becomes pretty much something that I've been expecting so much. I was so anticipated with, where it becomes...
He looks at her and says, all right, there's a place that is very dangerous. It's in Colorado. And he goes, it's a place that we're all going to be vulnerable, including Rebecca Ferguson's character. That's the only way we can stop her. And he goes, it's a place I went through back when I was a little kid. And it's the Overlook Hotel.
Yep.
So they drive all the way to Colorado, and we go to the Overlook Hotel. And what's really awesome about this drive, it goes into more detail, so it feels like it's a long drive. But then when you see that they're getting close to the mountains, this is where the theme plays.
And you get to see the actual
It's the same shot of them driving at the beginning of The Shining with the music playing in the fucking background. And the whole drive, I was like, "Fuck yeah!"
And what's interesting, he's actually from Colorado too.
Yeah.
So it's like going back to your hometown. And then they're.
I want to play that when I go back to my home visit.
Yeah. So they end up going to the Overlook Hotel, and I love how the exteriors they look fucking identical.
Fuck, even that rock at the beginning.
The beginning of it, like
in the middle of that water.
Shot, yeah.
And they fought like the music's playing the whole way while they're driving through, just like the opening of The Shining. I was like, fucking hey, man, they really did it. Yeah. I love this shit. And they're finally there. Yep. The Overlook Hotel looks spot on.
Yep, and then we get it to where Danny starts...
Well, he tells a girl to stay in because it's very dangerous in here.
So he's like, I have to make it...
Wake it up.
I have to wake it up.
Yep.
And then he ends up going inside, takes a... whatever he is to open the doors and stuff, and then he ends up going inside, and all of a sudden the lights start coming on all of a sudden. And I thought that was very effective what Flanagan did with the way that they knew of his home. He was waking the dead up, and he was going through like pretty much almost every room that we saw from The Shining. Where at first he's going around the little hallways where the little girls were and stuff, and then you got the room where, as you know, where Jack Torrance ended up chopping the fucking door down to get to Wendy, and it actually for a minute it flashes back.
Yeah, we get the highlight scene where he sticks his face through like his dad did.
Yeah,
and then next you know you get a flash scene, which scared the fuck out of me. By the way, I didn't see that coming. Where she's like holding the knife back and saying, "Get away from me!"
Yeah,
and then fucking him axing the fucking door. I'm like, damn, that's pretty effective.
Yeah, and then it shows Danny going, and even has the words "Red Rum" still on the fucking door.
Yeah,
and then he ends up going across to the ballroom, which this is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, where he goes inside the ballroom like the 1980s, where
and there's a glass sitting right there ready for him. And you think that was the same glass maybe Jack was drinking out of, which it probably was. He goes and sits down. He goes, well, what would it be? And you hear a voice in the background. You see a guy pouring Jack Daniels in his cup, and he goes, I remember when you came home, Dad. And he goes, that Jack Daniels always smelled like like tar or some shit.
Well, what threw me off was I thought for a second they were going to do the same type of bartender guy from...
I knew it wasn't because he said Dad.
Well, also his voice was through. I was like, okay, I know the other guy had a British voice, so that can't be the same dude.
You wouldn't have not known that because they already spoiled it, because the first lines was when he was pouring it, he goes, well, Dad, he goes, I remember back when you used to come home. Yeah. It always smelled like this shit.
And we don't get like a whole, we get like a side view of basically Jack Torrance. Basically, if you remember how Hubert did in The Shining, that ending where it's set up to where Jack Torrance basically became a reincarnation of the caretaker. Mm-hmm. Basically, his spirit is now part of the hotel, and he can basically take the form of pretty much anyone now. Yeah. And so
this actor is played by
I think it's Henry Thomas.
Henry Thomas, which again comes in the fact that I wish, while they did very good in the look because it was spot on to Jack Nicholson's look, because they still keep the same outfit on him and everything, and the same hair, same rough look. I just wish they could have CGI'd Jack Nicholson's face.
That would have been cool. Yeah. I would have appreciated it. Even though it probably would have not been as... I mean, depending on the technology, of course. Yeah. It still was a good opportunity to them to do that.
Yeah, I know.
But regardless, it was still cool to do this whole... Because we basically get resolution of what happened to Jack, where he basically became part of the hotel, like the end of the original
And not only that, he's trying to get his son to drink again like him, to become... murderous like him. He wants his own son, tries to get his own son to do what he did. Yeah. And basically he starts talking shit to his dad, him going at it, saying, no, I'm not like you,
He's like, Danny boy?
Danny boy. Yeah, he even says some of the shit he did in Shining, which was awesome.
And then pretty much he ends up coming across, he gets... talked by that girl Abra about the girl on her way and about Rebecca showing up and everything, and then basically he ends up going inside where the
highlight scene.
The highlight scene where the typewriter
was, yeah, and you still see the staircase up there, and he finds the axe.
Yeah.
The thing. So he grabs the axe, and they wait on Rebecca Ferguson's character to walk in, and we get our big battle right here.
Yep, and then
climax battle,
which is not. This really was surprising here. Like, so she ends up trying to fend him off, and the way that the camera pans, it's literally like watching Kubrick's scene where Bendy has that bat, and which actually took about 127 takes, where she's trying to swing against Jack and stuff. Danny is doing the same thing where he's trying to swing the axe.
This is where they pay real strong homage. Like he said, they're reenacting the scenes. Like instead of the bat, he has the axe and he's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
At her and stuff. And she's coming up like Jack, which is pretty cool. Where she's talking shit.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, this is just like fucking Shining.
Yeah.
They did really good at this scene.
Yep. That's what I'm saying. Then basically he ends up getting fucking hit in the leg and shit and all that, and he ends up falling down the stairs like Jack did. And then this is probably my favorite part is where she's about to.
Well, they trick her and they put her in the maze at first.
Well, yeah, first, yeah, we actually get to see before that happens too. We see that the girl is. She puts her inside Danny's mind, where he's trying to basically trap her in that little box or whatever, and then basically she was like, no.
And this place takes in the maze where you remember in The Shining, they open up where like she's in the middle of that maze, and from The Shining, and they're basically the little girl's fucking with her, running around, just tricking her and stuff, and slicing Rebecca's like fucking back with knives and shit, and fucking her up, and it's hurting her, but it's not really phasing her much, but it's led. So Danny can use one more box to trap her in, and she'll be stuck forever.
But she gets away from it.
She gets away from it,
and then it leads to them having that axe battle. And then after this, we literally get to see the same fucking characters from The Shining show up. The ghosts show up. In pretty much,
what happens is Rebecca Ferguson ends up getting him, knocking him down, and that's where the little girl runs off. And basically, he's like sitting there. She's pressing on his like wounds and stuff, and making him bleed. And she's sitting there like talking to him and saying, "Oh, where have you been?" She didn't even know he existed. He's been hiding. He's the only Shiner to ever hide.
Because he didn't use it that much when he was a kid. After that,
so she was like, "God, you got the best Shiner I've ever tasted ever." Yeah, and then she's sucking it out of him and hurting him and killing him and stuff. So he's led to sacrifice himself pretty much by releasing every monster in the hotel out of those boxes. Because they will eat her too, and they all do. And we get the little girls going, "Hello, Danny."
And then you got Delbert Grady.
And that guy looks exactly like him.
You also get the decayed woman and shit. Yeah, you get that one dude, the guy who had like the blood on him in like the shot was like having quite a party.
I think even the secret blowjob scene people were even in it too.
I think that was the bear suit dude.
They were all fucking there from the classic, and basically they eat Rebecca Ferguson alive pretty much, and kill her.
And then basically,
but then they turn and go after Danny, and they end up turning him into his father.
Yep, where he has the same limp.
So the little girl comes back and she's like, "Hey, is everything safe?" And then you see him look like his dad, and he's got the hose. He's like, "Rrr," and trying to kill her. I was like, "Oh, we got it again."
And we even flash back to the scene, The Shining, where it shows him saying, "Danny boy."
Yep.
Yep.
And he's sitting there with the thing trying to kill the little girl, and she's begging him, not to and stuff, and. This is how the miniseries ended, and this is where they paid homage to the miniseries.
And also the book.
Where he starts fighting the inner demons. He's like, "Run!" Before he goes back to trying to kill her again.
Yeah.
And he's telling her to run, and she ends up leaving and running. And basically, she told those monsters right before he was about to axe the little girl, she goes, "He did something to the boiler room right before we came in." And they're like, "Oh, fuck." So basically the creatures make him go down to the boiler room to try to stop it, but then he
he forces himself out.
Yeah, he forces him out to blow it up and kills him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Danny Torrance dies.
The same way that Jack did from the book and the miniseries.
Which I didn't see them killing
I didn't see
off.
that, yeah, but that's where I can see where Stephen King actually thought the movie redeemed the Kubrick version, basically.
Yeah.
But also, what's really heartbreaking about the scene is that he gets to see his mother one last time when he was still a child. And that's something that you're kind of assume that maybe she died in between the events.
You gotta think now that she died of old age.
Well, true.
So he'd get to join her in afterlife.
Yeah.
Because now he's dead. We go pretty much some time later, the mom and the little girls living together and stuff, and you see Danny Torrance pretty much in Scatman Crothers type level,
where he's a
ghost and he's talking to her. And basically, he's pretty much her friend. He also establishes where Tony comes from.
I thought was pretty cool because remember in the original film he was talking to his finger, and I was like, and then throughout the movie I'm like, where's Tony at? Oh,
I asked you that.
Yeah. So they actually do acknowledge that in this one. Yeah. And then pretty much she sees the decayed naked chick from the Shining in the bathroom, and she goes into the
now she's been exposed to the Overlook Hotel. Now she has the ability to
trap them. And what's cool about this is that they play the same song from the indie song, Midnight.
Yeah, the classic 30s type shit. Yeah, and the movie closes out. And
I love that. To me, that was fucking. That's how you do a great ending right there.
Oh my god, this movie was so fucking good. Like the fact that they could bring all the original looks of the people. However, I wish they would have done the face thing.
Yeah,
because there are some people that I just wish I thought was a missed opportunity.
Right, I got you.
But they still did very well of capturing the looks.
True.
To me personally, I think Shelley Duvall was the best.
Absolutely.
The actress that played Shelley Duvall's spot as Wendy was probably the most spot on.
Really.
Yeah.
And what I appreciated the movie the most is that, like we were saying...
Oh, and Grady, too. I thought that was really
great.
That
was really smart. I was like, holy shit.
They really got a guy look like Grady. Yeah. I wish there was a fucking bathroom scene with Danny Torrance with that guy.
He's like... Are you going to correct her?
Yeah. Correct that little girl?
Yeah. But anyway, like we were saying in our other review, like this movie was just everything that you could expect from a sequel to The Shining. The performances, like we said, Ian McGregor was fucking great as Danny. Rebecca Ferguson, I think this is going to go down probably my favorite performance of hers.
Another question, now that I think of it, if they automatically go for killing anybody who could shine, why the fuck did they not kill the little boy instantly in the first movie? And picked more on Jack.
Yeah.
That part I'm kind of questioning. Because as soon as they kill Rebecca's character, boy, they fucking really nail fucking Danny Torrance at the end.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
In 2 seconds, I'm like, damn.
Yeah, that was a little questionable. I was like, okay, they could have done that probably a little sooner than in the first movie, you know?
Yeah, like they spend so much on going after Jack, I guess because probably his mind's weak, but... If they really could kill that easy, they could kill the boy that easy. Yeah. If they were killing shiners. But anyways, yeah, I don't care.
But anyway, this movie was just so like outstanding. Like I love the love letter to Kubrick's film, but also the books as well. I love the fact that we're expanding upon the first movie's lore about the Shining level, especially how you got other people with different techniques of it. You know, the villains were fucking great, especially how we get their side and everything. The score, I love how they touch back with Kubrick's movie with that, and just the nostalgia about Kubrick's film that tied into this was fucking great. Yeah, and it's everything that I would want from a sequel to The Shining.
Yeah. This was a sequel that was done right. I personally, in my opinion, thought this sequel was done better than It Chapter 2.
Yeah, I do too.
Despite me loving It Chapter 1 to death. Andy Muschietti fucking nailed it, like nailed the direction of what Pennywise and It and all that, Bill Skarsgård, all that. However, I did have some little problems with the second movie, despite me liking it a lot. I felt like this was a better sequel and the better Stephen King film of this year. Yeah. In fact, Dr. Sleep is the best Stephen King film of the year.
Yeah, that's the best. If Chapter 2 is like in the kind of the middle, and then Pet Sematary. No, not Pet Sematary. Pet Sematary is about like kind of reaching there, almost there. And the tall grass is the worst. That shit pissed me off. But anyway, this one I'm gonna definitely gonna have this on fucking Blu-ray. Yeah. And if I ever get a 4K HD, I'll definitely own that on there.
I'm glad that a lot of people have been saying this. One more thing. I don't see how people said that you couldn't put these two movies together because they didn't look like each other. I thought there was not enough, but there was at least enough Kubrick feel to actually say that you could put these movies back to back and they feel the same.
They do. I mean,
a lot of people said tonally they didn't. I don't agree. But
granted, when it's sticking to just the Dr. Sleep stuff,
yeah,
it's going for more of a
it is a different look.
It's more of a fantasy type, like disorient type of feel.
Yeah,
that is still following Kubrick's style, but it's still like doing its own thing. When it's really sticking with the Shining stuff, it starts to do a lot of stuff reminiscent of Kubrick in a good way.
Kubrick shit is probably the most impossible shit to pull.
Yeah.
Kubrick shit can only be done by Kubrick.
Oh, yeah.
And for what Flanagan did, I will say that it could have been a whole lot worse, and it wasn't even bad at all.
No.
It felt like a Kubrick movie.
One more thing I will say, too, is that unlike traditional horror films, this one doesn't really focus too much on jump scares as it does keeping things very unsettling. So it's not necessarily like there's scenes that are just more like you're feeling like very disoriented, so to speak, where it puts you like in a kind of anxiety type level, so to speak, where you're basically disturbed more than you are kind of scared, but in a good way. I actually appreciate that.
I think it's done better than just pussy ass jump scares.
Yeah, I hate that shit. Yeah. That's one, and so I can't recommend this movie enough. With that, like we said, this movie is definitely going to be in my top 10 best movies of the year, and I'm going with a phenomenal grade on the Film Phreeks meter.
Yes, mine. This is definitely in my top 10 best, and it's a phenomenal grade in Film Phreeks meter too.
Fair enough. For those of you who have also seen Dr. Sleep and read the book by Stephen King, and also read the book of The Shining and watched the Kubrick film, let us know in the comments below what you thought about it. And if you like what you see here, you can feel free to like and subscribe to our channel. And check out some of our other reviews here and our website at filmphreaks.com. And we'll be seeing you in our next review. We'll see you later.